Hello, Good Shepherd and Saints Francis and John. I'm Deacon Mike Lynch with Good Shepherd Church. This week we prepare with the gospel message for the 21st Sunday of Ordinary Time. A reading from the Gospel according to Luke. Jesus passed through towns and villages, teaching as he went and making his way to Jerusalem. Someone said to him, "Lord, will only a few people be saved?" He answered them, "Strive to enter through the narrow gate, for many, I tell you, will attempt to enter, but will not be strong enough. After the master of the house has arisen and locked the door, then you will be standing outside, knocking and saying, 'Lord, open the door for us.' He will say to you in reply, 'I do not know where you are from.' And you will say, 'We ate and drank in your company, and you taught in our streets.' Then he will say to you, 'I do not know where you are from. Depart from me, all you evildoers.' And there will be wailing and grinding of teeth when you see Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and all the prophets in the kingdom of God, and you yourself cast out. And people will come from the east and the west, and from the north and the south, and will recline at table in the kingdom of God. For behold, some are last who will be first, and some are first who will be last." In this gospel story, we find Jesus not quite answering the question he was asked, and if you ask me, for a good reason. The question of how many will be saved isn't as important as how many people can be saved. Jesus answers the question he was asked with a parable on what it takes to get into heaven, the kingdom of God. Perhaps more specifically, he's answering that it isn't as easy to get into heaven as just saying, "We were there with you, eating and drinking with you, when you taught in our streets." It takes more than just showing up, as we like to say. Jesus calls it entering through the narrow gate. It takes walking in the footsteps of Jesus and living the kind of life he lived, serving the needs of others around us, living a life that reflects the teachings of Jesus, including his more difficult expectations, like loving people we consider to be our enemies, and judging no one, and storing up riches in heaven rather than trusting in the things of this life and wanting to be first. Living the Christian life means even being willing to endure some suffering, because we recognize that suffering comes to all of us, as it did for Jesus, and it can be redemptive for us and others. In the parable, Jesus talks about the master locking the door and telling those who want to get in, "I don't know where you're from." I hear the master, a clear image of God the Father, telling them that since they didn't walk in the ways of Jesus, his Son, they don't look like Jesus, and thus he doesn't recognize them. All of us should ask ourselves, what will God see in me when I stand before him? Will he see Jesus too? Here are some family activities to consider in light of this gospel. With your family, talk about what you think Jesus meant when he said, "For behold, some are last who will be first, and some are first who will be last." What do you think some qualities of a person in this life may be if they're considered first? What qualities do you think someone who is considered last? Is someone who has lots of money first or last? What about a friend who seems to always win sporting events, or maybe always seems to get the best jobs? Are they first or last? What about people who arrive 30 minutes early to Mass each Sunday? Do you think Jesus considers them first or last? Think a bit harder. What about the family with 4 children? Or maybe someone who is a caregiver for someone who is homebound. If they arrive at Mass just in time, do you think Jesus sees them as first or last? The gate is narrow for those who will be saved. We must strive to live as Jesus taught. But remember that Jesus knows the hearts and the challenges of each of us. What we may observe about others doesn't always tell the whole story. God bless you. See you at Mass.